Welcome. What we're going to be looking at in this video is we're going to be looking at how you actually create meaning out of camera angles. And the sorts of things that you should be looking for when you look at how camera techniques are illustrating a film. And the sorts of things that you can actually talk about when you're relating to them. Now, camera angles are basically a way to position the audience by the things that are shown and the things that are not shown. So the things that will be shown on camera are things that are important, whereas things that are not shown are things that are not important. Now that might be self-explanatory. But think of it this way. By showing people in one kind of light, you're basically indicating a certain bias, a bias on behalf of the filmmaker for that character. Which means the characters who are given more lines, or the parts of the story which are given more airtime, are more important for the parts of the story that probably don't. And this is something that basically positions the audience to how we're supposed to react to these sorts of things. And particularly the way that the camera is actually set up can help us to, particularly for angled shots, for instance, if you're a low down or a high down shot and you're looking down on someone, then you're immediately feeling powerful and superior and trying to belittle them. And that creates meaning without even having to say anything. So the director of a film will ensure that basically the camera matches the intended purpose of the film. Although, as I said before, you can interpret your shots your own way. There is no particular mandate for how you're supposed to talk about camera shots. And particularly the way that a director chooses to interpret it does not have to be the way you choose to interpret it. Because once the film is released, it's like any artwork. And what I mean by that is once an artwork is released to the general public, it is no longer owned by the artist or creator. It is owned by the public. So in this case, when you're talking about it, you're talking about it as one of the people who views it as a member of the public. And it has absolutely no ties to the director whatsoever, apart from the fact that they made the film. Now, when you discuss it, you can discuss it entirely through your own interpretation, without fear of contradiction. Provided, of course, that you provide some sort of relevant evidence or understanding about why you believe that, and why you have chosen that particular argument to match what it is that you've come up with. So, let's give you a bit of an example to start with. We'll go straight into it. Well, what is the meaning of the camera angle in this shot? It seems like a fairly straightforward shot. But you can actually read some things out of it. Now, this shot is taken entirely out of context. So, normally you would have some sort of context. In this case, we're not. We're looking at it more as an artwork. However, there are some things that we can still sort of see, which you can then interpret according to the context of the film. So, for instance, long shot, which is everyone's in screen, revealing both men in suits. By revealing buildings in the background, it indicates their power by basically being at the top. So they're looking down on the city. So in a way, it's actually the way that the camera is positioned is that we show them looking over the city. They could easily focus it the other way around and show nothing of that. It could be that the positioning of the men on either side not only shows them having a conversation, but they share different points of view by the fact that they're distant. Haven't got their arm around each other. They are not basically close. They are completely separate from each other. Now, in this shot, that sort of symbolizes something. It symbolizes that obviously there's some sort of point of difference, and particularly by their body language, there's sort of that implication there that they are powerful men, but they are powerful men who would probably conflict over different things. So, just through simple observation and through just looking at the shot, then you can actually get a bit of an idea of what the film is about. And this, as I said, is taken completely out of context. I'm not even going to go into the context of this film, where it's come from, because it's not really that important for this purpose. However, normally it is. And you should be really looking for the context of it in the film. So don't just pull out a random camera angle and say, well, this means this, when it has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the film. So when you think about what it is each camera shot is trying to do, think about it with the context of the film in mind first. So basically, what the film is trying to do. If you see the camera underneath someone, and yet they already appear pretty powerful, and you're saying that that camera angle is making them appear less powerful when it doesn't really appear that way, then it doesn't really make a lot of sense to use that as an argument. Sometimes that does happen, and you've just basically got to you've just got to discuss it in such a way where you find the context of the film and then apply the meaning according to what the film is actually trying to do, rather than just do it in isolation. That's what I mean. So once you have an idea of what the scene means, and that's basically what finding the context is, then you think closely about how the camera is projecting that. So the camera is something you use to back up your own ideas. So you would already have an idea what you think a scene means and what the ideas and the themes are coming out of that scene. Your camera, on the other hand, is a bit of evidence, really. It is the way that a film shows your ideas, and you use it to your advantage. The camera is entirely your tool to use as a way to support everything it is that you're writing about. You can discuss it in any way, as I said, you choose, as long as I said before, you make a connection, and that's what you really need to do. So don't just discuss camera angles and say it's an extreme wide shot. Woo. Say that it is an extreme wide shot which creates this effect. And why is it important? Because this is what the film is trying to do. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to link A to B to C. Alright, so fairly simple really, but just rehearse that over. Just make sure that you know that this bit connects to this bit, connects to this bit. And that's basically the easiest way to look at it. Now, construction, meaning, and frames, because this is mainly what you'd be looking at doing, is you're looking at framing, and quite often the way that a camera is framed will basically give you the boundaries of what is happening and what is not happening. So when you see things on camera, you see the world as the director wants you to see it. So that framing is very important. As I said before, very few camera shots are there just for the sake of it. Each one has been very deliberately chosen to show something, to communicate in such a way that the director wants to get across. And normally you'll be just writing about how camera angles shape the meaning through that. So through actually being a method of framing, what does the camera angle actually do? So as I said, by having the meaning of the scene outlined through the framing, then you can actually discuss it a little bit more deeply. The simplest way to look at this effect is basically go, what do I feel when I see that shot? What sort of reaction do I get when I've been positioned that way by the camera? And that's what it is. As I said before, it's a window. So treat it like a window. When you look outside and you see the world around you and you see it from different angles, think about it in the way that a director looks at it. Think about what you can see in each shot, what each shot is telling, what each story is behind every camera angle and every frame. Now, as I said before, this isn't necessarily something that you use in isolation, and certainly not something you use throughout the entire film. And what I mean by that is you don't pick out every single camera angle that's used in the film, because there's usually about 500, 600 shots at the very least. So you're going to be there for a while if you do that. So what you need to do instead is just think about picking out a couple of key shots which are being used in key scenes, like you would be doing if you're discussing meaning anyway. And then think about the meaning first. That's the first step, obviously. Think about the meaning that's being created, and then take a step back, look at the camera angles, what they're trying to do, and then you get your overall reaction. And that's basically about it for camera angles and their meaning. So, until next time, I'll see you later.